All right, so we are in chapter 2, second book of the Bible, second chapter. And we are going to pick up kind of right where we left off in chapter 1, and we're going to cover the entire second chapter. That's verses 1 through 25. So, second book of the Bible, Exodus, chapter 2, verses 1 through 25. And it starts off right off where we left out in 1, where there was an all out hit on males. It was absolutely certain death for any male babies because Pharaoh has decided that the people have become too numerous and he's created this threat almost. And so he is concerned about it and is trying to get rid of the Hebrews at all costs. And is now saying any male children that are born, throw them into the Nile. And so in chapter 2, it starts off where it says, a man of the house of Levi took a wife who was a daughter of Levi. And I'm stopping really quickly to explain. He did not marry his sister. It's not what's happening here. Please don't read it that way. Levi is one of the sons of Jacob. And so Levi is a tribe. There is a descendant. Levi has several children who marry, get wives, have kids, and the daughters get husbands and they have kids, and so on and so forth. There's a line, there's a legacy, and we are some years from when Levi was actually alive and all those things. Levi has passed on. The time frame for Levi, his father, his brothers, they're all passed. So now what we're looking at is when they're saying that a man in the house of Levi and a daughter of Levi means that they are both from the same tribe. They are in fact most likely cousins. Cousins have been a safe place for you to find a spouse because they understand your culture, they understand who you are, things like that. So do the tribes intermarry? Yes. Do they actually marry people from outside? Yes. This particular couple were both inside of the tribe of Levi, though. There are Hebrews with Egyptian spouses. There are Egyptians with Hebrew spouses. There are people with other spouses from other countries that surround them and cities that surround them. But this particular couple is just from the same line. So they're effectively cousins. And it says that she conceived and bare a son. And it says that when she saw that he was a goodly child, meaning that this is a healthy baby who is succeeding. He's thriving in life and he is growing in those things. And it says that she hid him for 3 months. So for 3 months, she hid this baby, probably wrapped him up, pretended to still be pregnant, had the actual baby on the outside sitting where he was sitting before on the inside, and hid this baby for as long as she could. And then after she couldn't anymore, she built an ark for him. And this ark is like kind of a little boat. We talk about them as Moses baskets, like these little rounded baskets that we put babies in now as a safe place for them. Comes from this Moses basket that was created for him. It is a basket that's created for this baby of hers. It is a male child. He does not have a name at this point. And so she puts pitch and slime. So basically she kind of waterproofs it by putting these substances around it, like tar, the sticky kind of thing that keeps it from letting the water in, and it'll float. And she puts the baby in there and she kind of hides him among the reeds in the water. And this is in the river. This is the same river that they're supposed to toss the babies in so that they would die. And so the daughter of Pharaoh is out and she has decided to bathe herself in the river. So she's going down there and she sees something in the bushes or those reeds right off of where she is. And she pulls it out and receives the ark. This mother of the baby left his older sister to keep an eye on it. So she can't hide him anymore. She still has to get work done. She still gotta, and they are still oppressed. They are still slaves right now. And so hiding this baby has become difficult because she's now at a point where her time has passed to come back to work. Her maternity leave is up. She gotta go back to work. She now has this child who is larger, who can move a little differently. And so she is hiding him. And she put her daughter as kind of stand guard to make sure nothing happens. Don't let no gators get this basket. Don't let, just keep an eye on it so I know what happened. Don't let it float away, things like that. And so in verse 5, Pharaoh's daughter sees it and says, "Hey, bring me the basket. Let me see what's going on." And when she opens it, she sees the baby, and the baby is crying. And she has this compassion on him. Like, I know this is one of the children of the Hebrews, and I know this mother is right now trying to just save her child. And he's a big old chubby little chunky baby. He's really cute baby. All the little, babies tend to, they look real helpless around you. It's something special, but I don't know. They emit like some pheromone or something that makes you just want to cuddle them. You makes you want to take care of them. And so she just, got caught up in it and realized that this is a child that a mother is really doing everything she can to save. She loves this kid. And so she says, she's like, all right, she feels that compassion. And she's like, she's in a place where she's like, I got to do something. And so then his sister steps up and was like, hey, do you want me to find someone to nurse this baby? Because they can't just run down to the store, get a couple cans of formula, and just take them in. There needs to be a wet nurse. It needs to be somebody who can nurse this baby. And so Pharaoh's daughter's like, yeah, if you have somebody that can take care of this baby, I love him. I think he's adorable. He's cute and cuddly, and I want him. So if I'll take care of him to protect him from the stigma, at this point, I'm going to put my name over him. And if I put my name over him, he's not subject to the same rules. He's not subject to the same death that these other babies are. At this point, I'm going to put my name over him so that he's safe with you until a point where he can come be with me. And so in verse 8 and 9, verses 8 and 9 were, this is the come up of the year. This is the come up of the book, basically, so far. This is the come up of the Bible right here. And so Pharaoh's daughter said, yeah, go get me somebody to nurse this baby. And this little girl go get her mama and brings her back and says, oh, she can nurse this baby. And in verse 9, it says, Pharaoh's daughter said to her, take this child away and nurse it for me, and I will give thee thy wage. This woman who was fighting to keep this baby alive, hiding this child, worried about his safety and security, a future for him, has put him into the bushes in a basket and came back at the end of that day and now has a job where she's being paid to take care of the child that she was getting ready to lose. She's getting paid to take care of her own child. The child that she has nursed for free for 3 months, she now gets paid to feed. That's a come up right there. That's how you know ahead of time this baby was finna be blessed. Like, this was getting ready to be good, because even in his early days, even in his beginning, there was a protection over him. There was something great over him that made it impossible for the plot of the enemy to win. And so it says that she took that baby and nursed it. She went on home with her baby and got paid to take care of her own child. And so in verse 10, it says that as he grew, she brought him back to Pharaoh's daughter. So there was a need for him to be separated or away from his mother. Now, we getting cliff notes in Moses' life, just the pieces of the background that's important. And so Pharaoh's daughter calls him Moses. She gives him the name Moses to kind of commemorate how she got him. She drew him out of the water. This was a baby that was in the river, the Nile River. This is the baby that was in there. What was supposed to happen was he was supposed to be thrown in there to drown, to be eaten by whatever animals are out there, eating stuff in the water. That was the fate that was set for him before he went in. But because of the intervention of the people moving under God's direction, because none of this is by accident, he now has been drawn out of the water that was designed to kill him, but drawn into a new life that presents him an opportunity to be the change agent that God was calling him to be. Those rough beginnings, those weird starts, those things that don't seem to make sense, it seemed really unfair for this to be the plot of your life. It seems really unfair for this to be how things start for you. It's design. It is by design. God is setting this up on purpose because it makes you who he needs you to be to do what he called you to do. And so in verse 11, we fast forwarding again, it came to pass in those days when Moses was grown. I want to point out some very important things. So we have to do some separating fact from fiction here, okay? Because there's a lot of movies about Moses, and I want us to make sure that we are absolutely certain on what the Bible says versus what Charlton Heston says, or what the movies say, or what any of these other, shows have said. Evan Almighty, Bruce Almighty, all those. We don't have to rely on that for these type of stories. So it says, it came to pass in those days when Moses was grown. We skipped right from being a baby in the water to being grown. So all that stuff in between where people are like, yeah, him and Pharaoh used to fight. They were raised like brothers. He didn't. We don't have that's creative license. Somebody put that in the movie to make it look good. And so it says that he went out unto his brethren. He went out unto his brethren. This man knew he was Hebrew. And looked on their burdens. He knew he was Hebrew. He went out to go see how they were doing. He knew he was Hebrew. He was raised by his mother. He knew his brother. He knew his sister. He knew these people. He knew his family. He knew who he was. It was never a time that he thought he was Egyptian and was rudely awakened that he's not. He knew who he was. He knew he was Hebrew. And it says he looked on their burdens and he spied an Egyptian smiting a Hebrew, one of his brethren. It was repeated because it needs to be known. He knew he was Hebrew. He never thought he was Egyptian. He never thought I'm adopted. He never had that moment. That didn't happen. Like, he knew who he was from the beginning, and he went out to go see about his people, and he saw an Egyptian hitting a Hebrew. He saw somebody out under the burden of their work. He saw them out. Like, this is somebody who has escaped the life of a slave. He doesn't live that. And he saw an Egyptian smiting a Hebrew. He saw him hit. He saw him hitting a Hebrew. He saw this Egyptian doing it. And so it says in verse 12, he looked this away and that away. He looked this way and that. He looked to see if anybody was around. And it says, he saw that there was no man. He looked both ways to see if it was anybody that was going to see what he was about to do. And he didn't see anybody. So he killed an Egyptian and hid him in the sand. He killed this man and buried him. He knew he was Hebrew. He went out to see how the people were doing and felt some type of way about the way they were being treated. And did something about it. The complete wrong thing. Absolute wrong thing. At no point are we justifying this. At no point did we ever say, good star for Moses because he out here, he took out one of the Egyptians. That is not at all what's happening at all. Not at all. What he did was wrong. And we see how he pays for that. And so he kills this guy. A lot of times when we see Moses as the man of God. We see Moses as this person, this friend of God who looks God face to face and has conversations with him. We forget the fact that he's a murderer. It is not about what you did. It is not about who you used to be. It is about your obedience and your relationship with God. That is what makes the difference. The obedience to what God has called you to do and your relationship with him. God will forgive you. But let's not go out here and do things that make God have to forgive us. Let's not cause a need for that. So, and it says in verse 13 that he went out the second day. He went out the next day because he was like, I just got to make sure I want to see about this. And he obviously is perplexed. He obviously sees what's going on. And he is keeping an eye on it. So he goes back out the second day. And two men are fighting. Two Hebrew men are fighting. They are fighting each other. And we see that a lot. Everybody wants to focus on, the black on black crime. Everybody wants to focus on that. They missed all the other stuff that Egyptian was actually out here. And I understand that Egyptians are black. They are I'm not going to say black. They are African. and Egypt is in Africa. And so he sees these two Hebrew men fighting each other, and he's like, hey, what are y'all doing? Why are y'all fighting each other? Like, why would you fight against each other? And he's like, hey, what's going on? Like, y'all got a common enemy. Y'all got a common problem. Why would y'all be fighting each other? And in verse 14, they was like, who decided you in charge? Who died and left you in charge? Y'all heard that before? They were like, who are you? Who made you the prince? Who made you the king? Who put you in charge of us to worry about what we doing and what we arguing over? That's not your business. Won't you worry about yourself, because you killed that Egyptian yesterday? You plan on killing us too? That's why you over here having this conversation. You don't like what you see, so you gonna kill us the same way you killed that Egyptian? We saw you. We know about it. We know about it. Just because you think that nobody see you doesn't mean that nobody saw you. Get yourselves together. And so Moses got scared. He said, surely this thing is known. If these two men know about it, then I know the word is going to get out and I'm going to be in trouble. And now I'm looking at being killed because I killed somebody. It wasn't an accident. I was mad about what he was doing and how he was treating people, and I did something about it. And so in verse 15, Moses leaves. Pharaoh heard about what he did and wanted to kill Moses. And so Moses runs. He on the run. He wants it, and he on the run. He is an escaped criminal. He is on the run. He flees all the way to Midian. Midian is another land miles and miles away. And this space is far away. We hear Midian a lot. We're getting ready to connect with why we do. And so it says the priest of Midian. There is a man of God in Midian who has 7 daughters who water the sheep. Their job, a lot of times, we like to determine that shepherds are all male. We like to determine that these things are true, but in reality, we've seen a couple times now where the women are shepherds, where the women water the sheep and drive the sheep, and they take care of this too. This is a job that women have as well. And so this priest of Midian has 7 daughters. And these 7 daughters came to draw water to water their sheep. And in fact, they come down and they get a hard time because the men are like, get out of the way. And they pushing them around and giving them a hard time. And so Moses stands up for him and was like, that's not what we finna do. They was here. And you're not going to treat them bad. I'm going to stand up for him. Won't you pick on somebody your own size? Because, Moses is he's a champion for the underdog. That's something that he had early in him. That's why he killed that Egyptian. That's why that's why he stands up for these women. That's why he is the person that God calls to go back and be a champion for the underdogs. He's a champion for the Israelites who are in bondage and need to be freed. And so in verse 18, it says they came to Reuel, who is their father. That is one name that he goes by. The other name he goes by is Jethro. Jethro is the name that we see most often when he's being referred to. And that name is the name of Moses' future father-in-law. So their dating situation isn't really talked about in here. But basically what happens in these verses is they think he's an Egyptian because he looks like an Egyptian. He's grown up in Egypt. He's grown up in a culture that has now been influenced heavily by Egypt and Egyptian culture. And he has, in fact, been raised by Pharaoh's daughter. So he's going to wear the clothes of an Egyptian. He's going to have the look and haircut and styling and culture of an Egyptian. He's going to look like an Egyptian to them because he's from Egypt. Even though he is a Hebrew living in Egypt, he is going to carry the look of Egypt. And so they were like, basically, he stands up for the women at the well. And they're able to get home. They get home quickly. And their father is like, how'd you get back so fast? I know they hassle you down there. I know you have a hard time. It normally takes you longer than this. How did you get home so quickly? And they're like, this Egyptian, stood up for us and helped us get what we needed so we can get out of there quicker. And their dad is like, well, why would you leave him there? Why would you not invite him in? He helped you out. Like, let us return the favor. Like, why would you not help him out? So they invite him back for bread. And, it skips immediately down where it says that he now dwells with this man. As a thank you, they offer him shelter. And he's like, hey, I'm here. I'm traveling. I don't have anywhere to go. I don't have any family. I don't have any, I need some help. And so he kind of comes on and he works for him. And while he's there, he takes on the wife Zipporah, one of my favorite people. He takes on the wife Zipporah, who is one of the 7 daughters of the priest. And she bears their first child, Gershom. And Gershom his name is because I'm a stranger in a strange land. Like, I'm here and, I'm a Midian, but I'm not a Midianite. They believe I have the look of an Egyptian, the culture of an Egyptian, but I'm not Egyptian. Like, I'm a stranger. I'm a nobody from nowhere. And, I'm a stranger in a strange land. I'm a nobody from nowhere. I'm a nobody in nowhere. Like, I don't belong here. But he marks it because he's being blessed in this space. Even though I'm not at home, even though I'm not among my people, there is still a blessing that comes from being able to follow the commands of God. And so in verse 23, it says, and it came to pass in the process of time that the king of Egypt died. The person who wanted Moses dead has now died. And the children of Israel sighed by reason of the bondage, and they cried, and their cry came up to God by reason of the bondage. They were so oppressed for so long that their cries, the time basically has come, and God hears their cry. He heard the prayers. He heard all the things, and it is built up to a point where there's a collective cry. It's just getting worse. This Pharaoh that wanted us dead is now dead, and now's the time. Like, when is it gonna happen? Like, we've been praying for relief and this relief has not come. We've been praying for this to end and this end has not come. When is it going to be time? And so that exasperation, that stress, that strain reaches God. And it says that God heard their groaning and God remembered his covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He had promised them that at a period of time that they were going to be released. They're going to be freed. If you go into Egypt, I will bring you back out. He said to Abraham, there is a period of 400 years that your people are going to be oppressed. We saw it in Genesis. There is a period of 400 years where your people are going to be oppressed, but I'm going to deliver them with a mighty hand. He promised them something great, some signs, some wonders. And so there had to be a point, because if they had gone in and things got tight and it was like, oh, we don't like being your servants, we're going to leave. Where is the, oh my God, in that? Because that's what we're looking for here. God is like, with a mighty hand. The people are going to know who God is because of you. And sometimes you have to walk a very difficult, very painful thing out so that there is a time and a place for people to see God work a miracle on your behalf. In order for God to perform a miracle, you're going to have to need one. You're going to have a situation that requires a miracle. So God going to have to set you up so that he can turn you into a stage. And so here is where the journey is beginning. So we introduced all our characters. We had the people that went in and grew. We got the people that came out of that. We have the person that came out of that who was going to be this leader. And so now the stage has been set for this miracle. And so we start to see the miracles happen. And so when it says that God remembered the covenant that he had, it's not that God forgot. It's not that God was like, I know I said I was going to do it, but later. It was that the time had happened. That time had come. God doesn't operate in our time. He ain't in our time zone. We can't clock him. But like, I know it's 2:00 to me, so it must be 7:00 to God. No, he doesn't exist in our space. God exists outside of the world that he created, outside of the rules that he created for us. He's not bound by them. So his time is not our time. So now for him, the point has come where it is now time for this thing to happen. And the people had to live it until we got there. I don't like it any more than you, but it's how it works. And when you see it all come together, you understand better. And so in verse 25, it says, God looked upon the children of Israel and God had respect unto them. Respect means he knows them. He is now said, they're ready. I see them. I get them. I understand them. I have knowledge of them. It's not just, oh, I respect them. Oh, yo, top flight. These people are the truth. No, he says, I know you. I see you. I feel you. I get it. I have knowledge of you. I have understanding of you. At this point, he is acknowledging their hardships. He's acknowledging their heart posture. He's seeing the heart of the people. Okay, so I'm going to recap real quick. Although this is like the Cliff Notes version of Moses' life, but basically what happens is Moses is born. His mom hides him for as long as he can. Once she can no longer hide him, she puts him in a little basket that she makes for him, and then puts that basket into the water, sets his sister outside to make sure that he's safe. Pharaoh's daughter finds him. They go back, get the mom, and was like, hey, I'll pay you to take care of this baby until he's big enough to come and live with me. She does that, brings that baby back to him, and he's raised in the palace. He's raised by Pharaoh's daughter. After he is grown, he goes outside to see his people who he knew was his people. He goes outside and he sees them, and he sees an Egyptian who is hitting a Hebrew person. He looked around, realized nobody could see him, and killed the Egyptian, buried him in the sand. The next day he sees two Hebrews fighting. He's like, hey, why y'all fighting? What's with this black on black crime, basically? Why are you all fighting against each other when we have a common enemy? And they was like, I don't know who died and left you in charge, but what you gonna do? Kill me like you killed that dude yesterday? And Moses is like, oh, they know. So let me get out of here. And Pharaoh was like, oh, he killed an Egyptian? Word, take him out. And so he is running for his life. He is like on the run for real because they know that he has murdered someone. And of course, the penalty for that would be his own death. And so he's like, let me just get out of here. And so he runs to Midian, where he goes and he waits, basically hides out. While he's there, when he first gets there, he stops at a well, sees these women who are trying to draw water to water their father's sheep, being hassled. There's 7 sisters. And he stands up for them because he's a champion of the underdog. And so he stands up for them. And they get home. When they get home, their dad is like, hey, how you get back so fast? And they tell him what happened. He invites this stranger to come dwell with him. And during that time, he, in fact, marries Zipporah, which is one of the daughters. They have a child, Gershom. And at that time, God acknowledges the cry of the people. I've heard your prayers over the years. I've heard your heart over the years. And now's the time for this to happen. Now it is time for me to do the thing that I promised. The period of time that I said would happen to Abraham is now the period of time that I am in fact seeing with the people, has passed for these people, and it is time now for this action to occur. Okay, so I want you to remember, if you are in a situation that is taking a very long time to solve, you need a miracle. If you are in need of a miracle, you have to understand, sometimes in order for people to see a miracle by the hand of God, there has to be a need for a miracle. So you got to go through some stuff. It's going to be ugly. It's going to be dark. But this isn't about you, and it isn't for you. It is for the other people to come into knowledge of the God you know. And trusting and having faith and understanding that God is going to deliver you. He is going to provide the miracle that you need. Is everything you need. So I want you to hold on. I want you to remain strong. And I want you to know that in order for a miracle to occur, you have to have need of a miracle. And if you have need of a miracle, then your God is going to come through for you with that. And when it does, it's going to be a mighty hand. And it's going to be done in a way that allows everybody else to see who and how great God is. Y'all be blessed.